Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel at Unicorns and Typewriters. My name is Skylar and I'm back today with a very exciting booktube video. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about books that I have read so far this year because I was absent for booktube for a little while. I never really did monthly wrap-ups this year yet. I've mostly just done kind of random book hauls, and I announced my new bookshelves, as you all know, in my last video, and I'm so excited to have them. I unfortunately was not able to get myself ready to be able to do the video that I really want to do, where I bring as many books as I can over to my current apartment and get these shelves as filled out as possible, and talk to you guys about which books I have and why I'm placing them where I'm placing them. I don't know. I have some ideas, or probably just actually a highlight of which books are my favorites that I've collected over the years. That would be pretty cool, I think. So I hope you'll still look forward to that as soon as I get someone to help me lug some books over here. But yeah, so it's looking, I think, a little more put together, but it also just has some random stuff on it right now. So my bookshelf is far from perfect, but I didn't want it to stop me from making another booktube video because I don't want to leave you all hanging that long yet again. So in today's video, like I said, I haven't really done monthly wrap-ups, so I wanted to be able to go over what I've read so far this year and tell you guys my general overview of what I thought about the books. Let's get started. So this year I finally read Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw, if I'm saying her name correctly. I really loved this book. I had read The Wicked Deep, I think a year or two ago. I enjoyed The Wicked Deep a lot. I thought it was a really cool, witchy, dark, atmospheric tale, and this book was the same. It did not disappoint at all. I really loved the characters. I was really into the story, and even though for this one I did kind of predict what was coming, I predicted the main character, what her sort of witch specialty is, because all the witches in her family have a certain power and she doesn't think she has one at all. And definitely by the middle of the book, a few things had happened that made me feel like I knew what her power was, and I did end up being right about what her kind of witchy ability is, but it still had some really cool twists and turns in it that I wasn't necessarily expecting. And I completely fell in love with the Wicker Woods, the woods in this series that have so much to do with her family background and this character, her as a character as well. And I almost forgot her name. Her name is Nora, the main character. So I really, really related to Nora. I loved it. It was definitely like a very atmospheric, very internal thought kind of read. There were a lot of pages where there weren't a ton of dialogue. It was a lot of internal thought and a lot of kind of her feelings and thoughts. And I don't know, I really liked that. It's interesting to me because as a writer, we're told a lot like not to do that. We're told you have to have dialogue to push the story forward. You can't just like, you'll bore people if there's not enough action and dialogue. And I feel like this book is a great example of why that's not true at all, because this was so much fun and so enjoyable, and I really liked it. So I'm really excited to see what she does next, and I'll definitely be following her work in the future. I'm trying to go in order here, but my short-term memory is horrendous. So another book that I read this year, probably in this order, was Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really cool. The main character is a Gumiho, which is a nine-tailed fox who survives on consuming the energy of men, but she's also half human and has a soft spot for people. So I thought this was super interesting. It took place in Seoul, which I loved reading about because I've gotten really into K-dramas and K-pop in the last couple of years, and especially with K-dramas, like almost all of them are based in Seoul or have scenes in Seoul. And so now I want to go to Seoul. And so it was really cool to read a novel that takes place there. For me, that was just a lot of fun. And I recognized some of the names of places and descriptions when they started describing places. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that from like this K-drama. And so that was a lot of fun for me. I also just really loved the story. It was really heart-wrenching, and it had a lot of deep feelings to it about family and love and relationships and friendships. And yeah, overall, I just really loved this and would highly suggest it to anyone. I did get the companion novel which is called Vicious Spirits. I have not read it yet. I got a little tiny bit put off because I really did think it was a sequel, and then I realized it's actually a companion novel. And so it seems to be about the main male character's best friend, which honestly, she seems like a really kick-ass cool character as well. But I don't know, I got like a little nervous about it not being about like the main characters that I've grown to love. So we'll see. I'm definitely gonna pick it up. I do plan on trying to read it this year at some point. Maybe I'll even pick it up this month, in the month of May. We'll see. But yeah, I just kind of put it aside for a little while to get to a couple other books that I really wanted to read. So I will definitely be coming back to that soon, because I am also probably gonna be following this author's work since I loved this one so much, Cat Cho. So yeah. Another book I read this year was How the King of Elfame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. And if you've been watching my channel, you know that I love the Cruel Prince series. So I was very excited to read this and get to kind of get back into the world a little bit. I definitely didn't realize when I purchased it how tiny it is, which I think I talked about when I hauled it. But yeah, it's pretty small, so there wasn't a ton to it, and it's illustrated, so some of the pages are taken up by illustration as well. But I really, really enjoyed it. It was just so much fun to revisit this world. I definitely don't have any regrets about getting it. I do like kind of wish it was bigger and longer and had more, because I'm just like super hungry for more on these characters and this world that Holly Black has built. But I don't really think that she's necessarily done with this world. I've become a really big Holly Black fan in the past couple of years, ever since I read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town, which I know is kind of like a weird one to start with, but that just happened to be the first Holly Black book that I read, and I pretty much fell in love with her ability to just, I don't know, get under your skin, write twists and turns that you're not expecting, and generally just write great stories. So I really enjoyed reading this. I thought it was a lot of fun to revisit Jude and Carden. I really enjoyed that, and I definitely would highly recommend it to anyone who enjoyed the Cruel Prince series. I don't think you'd really enjoy it that much if you hadn't read the series, because it's kind of just like a little extra taste of the characters. This was really fun though, and I do highly recommend it. I am kicking myself a little bit because I keep forgetting to bring over the slipcover because I had taken it off when I was still living where I was living before where I am now, so I need to bring that over. But I did finish reading The Raven King this year by Maggie Stiefvater, which was the final book in the Raven Cycle series. I always want to say the Raven Boys series, and then I'm like, no, it's called something else. I can't say that I really enjoyed it. This book I have a lot of mixed feelings about, and this series in general, but especially this book. I feel like this series for a lot of people is kind of black and white. Like, not everyone loves this series, even if you've loved Maggie Stiefvater's work in the past. And I do feel like I was in that boat of people who didn't like this series as much as her other work, which is a shame. And I felt down on myself for it for a little while, because I felt like it was kind of being said that this series was a lot more complex and you have to be smarter to read it or whatever. And I feel like people were looking down on fans who weren't as into this series, and like, guys, I have a master's degree. I'm pretty sure I'm smart enough to like this series. But the problem is that I don't know. There's so much, and I think I should do a whole video where I talk about this series, so stay tuned for that. And there's a lot of really positive things about the series, so don't get me wrong, I still liked it. Like, I definitely liked it, and I still love Maggie Stiefvater. I love her writing. I love her ability to write complex, interesting characters, and her ability to weave magic into everyday life. I love all of that. She's a huge inspiration to me. But this series and this specific book especially, but really this book, the last like 2 books in the series, I had a lot of problems with. And one of my biggest problems was that she introduced new characters and new character perspectives in the last 2 books. And I understand that these are characters that were significant to the storyline. We just didn't know yet because we only knew what the characters we knew, if that makes any sense. But I felt like we were thrown into all these new perspectives in this book, and there's so much that went unanswered about the characters that we've really been following for most of the 4 books of this series. And that bothered me, because I was like, I know we then have the Dreamer trilogy that's going to be after this, and I haven't started that yet. Knowing that, I think I would have been more upset if I had finished this before I knew that, because knowing that, I'm kind of like, all right, well, I know that we get more of specifically Ronan. I think that's safe to say without being a spoiler, because I think everyone knows that series supposedly focuses on Ronan at this point. So I was kind of willing to let it go that some things popped up with Ronan that I did not expect or understand or really realize. Like, this is so hard to talk about without going so in depth into it. Let's just leave it at, I was willing to accept certain things being kind of left unexplained with Ronan. But what I really didn't like is that we learned so much at the very end, especially about Blue. And then instead of giving us more pages and more time with Blue, we got random chapters from perspectives of characters we had never had perspectives of in the entire series so far. And that did really bother me, because I was like, come on, like, I don't know if there's more about Blue in the next series or not, but it really bothers me that we didn't find out something really, really big about her until this book. And then we had to sidetrack on new characters. That's just, I feel like that is just, I just felt really hurt. I just felt really like betrayed by Maggie Stiefvater, because it was like, come on, like, really, the last book you're gonna throw in new characters? Anyway, whatever. So I don't know, maybe they're important in the Dreamer trilogy, so maybe when I start reading that, I'll be like, oh, this is what she was building up to. But I still think it's a little unfair, because this is still supposed to be its own series. And yeah, so still enjoyed it, liked it. I gave it like 3 stars on Goodreads. I'm not gonna like give it less than that. I didn't hate it or anything, but I didn't love it. It wasn't everything I hoped for, but I kind of felt that way about this entire series, to be honest. I can appreciate her writing and not feel like it's really giving me the satisfaction that I enjoy from reading books. I don't know. So mixed feelings. If you want to see a video where I talk about my feelings on the whole series and probably also include spoilers, comment below. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that. I'd love to do that video, and I'll probably do it anyway, but hey, let me know. It's always nice to feel supported in your choices. The most recent novel that I completed reading was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, and I overall really enjoyed this one. I really liked the main character. I liked the topics that it dealt into. Sort of the responsibility that creators put on themselves and the anxiety. It definitely really touched a place for me about myself and my creativity and the pressures that I put on myself and the anxieties that I put on myself. And so that I really, really appreciated about this book. I thought it was definitely an important view on mental health having to do with being a creator. And I thought it had some really interesting insights into the differences between sort of online friends and real friends, and how we live in a world where online friends are real friends. And I thought that was really cool, and I really liked that. However, there were also quite a few things I really did not like about this book. One being that I didn't love the main sort of character's relationship in the book. And if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't know. There was a lot of like toxic things going on, and I do believe there is redemption in the novel for the toxic things that go on, but I also feel like I don't know if I feel fully okay with them, even with the sort of redemption that the author gives us through the character. So I don't know. I felt a little mixed. I didn't really feel like the relationship was healthy. There's also the same issue with the main character and her parents. I definitely did not like the way her parents treat her, and that we see that in a lot of novels, and that's important to talk about. So there's nothing wrong with that. However, there was a redemption about also with her parents and how they treat her, about her art, her anxiety, the way she chooses to live her life. That I was totally down with. I love a good family moment. But there were some other things that weren't resolved, and one of those things was her parents letting her have autonomy over her own body. There was sort of a scene in this book where her parents, basically because she is friends with a boy, they force her to take birth control. And I was like, what? Like, really? And the only thing we get from that after they force her to get on a medication that she doesn't even require is that she says it's making her feel bad. Like she's having bad symptoms, and then it's never discussed again. And I thought that was terrible. I thought that was completely terrible. She tells her parents multiple times that she's only friends with this boy and that nothing is going on. And completely without her consent, they're like, nope, you're getting on medication. It's like, what? I don't know. I hated that. I really, really hated that aspect of this book. I'm like, this book did come out a couple years ago, but I really, really didn't like the main character's kind of lack of autonomy over her own body. Like, that's her body, her choice. She shouldn't be forced to take medication. If the medication is giving her negative side effects, she should do something about it, and someone should do something about it. Like, it was very messed up to me that that was decided for her, and then she just sort of accepted that it was making her feel bad all the time. I was like, okay. And then, I mean, later in the book, we do get a little bit about medication for anxiety, depression, that type of thing. And that was handled well, I thought. But yeah, that whole thing, that little section, it made me super uncomfortable. And unfortunately, it's still something I feel really focused on with this book, that I thought that was really, really messed up. So I don't know, like, I've got some feelings, obviously, but overall it was an enjoyable read, and I did like the representation of mental health in it. But yeah, I got some issues with it. Without adding a ton of spoilers, to be exact, I think I've kind of made it clear what my problems were. But yeah, I still liked it. It was still an enjoyable read. I still was on the edge of my seat to find out what would happen after a certain point. So yeah, I overall enjoyed it, but have issues with it. The life of a reader. So I have also read a handful of manga books, but I've talked about the one series quite a few times, so I won't really go into that again, but I have been still reading the Miracle Girls manga series that I've been reading since the end of last year, that I thought I was going to finish last year, and then I didn't finish last year. So now I'm still finishing it this year, but I hope to finish that soon, and I have read a couple of those this year so far. So I also read Juno Ito's Cat Diary, Yan and Mew. Ito, if you've heard that name before, he's super well known as a horror manga writer or artist, and so I thought this was super interesting when I saw that this existed. I've been really wanting to read his horror manga for a really long time, and kind of like stuck between being super tempted and fascinated and also scared that it's gonna freak me the heck out because it's super creepy. I know enough about it and I've seen enough imagery from it to know that. Apparently at some point he just wrote this tiny, it's very small, it's very thin, this tiny little book about his cats. And it's so funny. I think it was absolutely hilarious. It is about him becoming a new cat owner. He gets married and he doesn't really realize that his new wife is going to be bringing her cat over from her parents' home, and then also expecting to adopt a second cat. So I thought this was so much fun. He added like little horror elements, like the creepy aspects of like his wife's eyes are like always like completely white. She seems like this kind of like cat loving zombie, and he gets like it's mostly like, it is kind of a memoir, like this is supposed to be himself, and he gets kind of creepy sometimes with like, it's mostly him doing creepy stuff. Sometimes this one cat is a little creepy, but yeah, it's pretty hilarious, honestly. I really, really loved this. And the illustrations are just so cute. You can kind of see, let's see, some of the creepy aspect here of like the one cat running by. It looks like it has like a skull shape on its back. So yeah, they're really fun. There's like scenes like this where the cat will bite him and it looks like it's like murdering him. But it's pretty hilarious. I really enjoyed reading this, and I would highly suggest it to anyone who has cats, is thinking about cats, just wants to read something kind of humorous and fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I just wanted to mention it because 10 out of 10 highly recommend. And then, of course, I also read the two poetry books, Homebody and The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. I think I mentioned these in one of my haul videos as well. These were so fun to read, so enjoyable. I love her work so much. She's definitely one of my favorite poets, and I will, basically always want to get whatever books she comes out with next. So I hope she will keep going for a long time. These poetry books kind of bring me life. So yeah, I absolutely love them. Very feminist, very like empowering women of color, empowering diversity. I was really into these. I found them super enjoyable. I always read poetry books really fast because I just can't stop. Like, they're just so good, I can't stop. And they're easy to read pretty fast because they're poetry and it doesn't take as long, but still, they were just really enjoyable and I highly recommend. So anyway, I think other than the couple manga books of the series Miracle Girls that I talked about, that is everything that I've read this year. I am currently reading 3 different books right now, other books, because one book I take to work, one book I read before bed, and then I'm reading like another poetry book that I just was taking a break from the novel I'm reading to read the poetry book. Anyway, it's a long story, but I'm reading like 3 books and I suspect that I will finish them in the month of May. So I am hoping that at the end of this month, May, I will go back to doing my monthly wrap-ups, and then I won't really have this anymore where I just go over all the books I've read over like a couple months. But yeah, so after I get caught up on those 3 books, I believe I'll be back kind of caught up for my reading goals this year too, which is really exciting because I was doing really well and like ahead for a little while, and then I got behind again. So now I'm catching back up, which feels very nice. But yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed watching this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and I will be back with another new video soon. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.